Okay, so now we know that something happens before we render the JSX and after we render the JSX. Good. So we know this. We have these methods available. But of course, we have more. I'm going to go right here inside the render. I'm going to console log and then render. Just like that. Let me make it caps render. Okay. So I'm going to just reload the application and I'm going to get 3 before render, then we get the render, and then after render. We know this. I'm going to add a click, and I'm going to be changing the state. I have the code ready, so we don't have to lose time doing this. And then I'm going to make it just like that, and then we're going to be setting the state. So what is happening right here? I just added a button that whenever we click it, we're going to be changing the state of title to something else. Real simple. We just changed the title right here. So if I click it, we change the title. We know how to do this. We're just setting the new state of something. Now notice that we get rendered twice. Whenever we change the state of this component, React is going to be listening for that. So it's going to detect a change on the state and it's going to re-render whatever code you have inside. And that's why it's able to update the contents of this. Right here we are rendering the title. Whenever we click on change, it's going to update the state. It's going to re-render it, and now that state, the title, is going to be equal to whatever title we put right here. So that's why we get the render twice. And this is what single-page applications do. They re-render the content the whole time whenever they detect an update. This is what they do. That's normal. Now the thing is that right here we have 2 methods that are going to be listening before rendering and after rendering. That's good. So we have some additional methods right here that are going to be checking that we can use to detect whenever something before something gets updated or after something gets updated. Notice that I've clicked on click change the state, and I'm only getting the rendered. So the before render and after rendering are not running. This only happens once. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to call to 2 different methods. I'm going to do component, just like that, components, and then will, just like component will mount, but it's going to be component will update. So this method is going to run before we update something. And then we have another one that is going to be component, and then did, and then update, just like that. And this method is going to be used after it gets updated. So if I go right here and I'm going to say console log and then before update, makes sense, before update, and I'm going to do the same thing in this one. It's going to be after update, of course. I'm going to rerun the whole application just from the start. We get first the component will mount, then the render, and then component did mount. I'm going to click on change and we get before update, render again because we are rendering the application, and then after the update. So we have access to this so we can know whenever something is happening in our application. That's good. It's good to have this one. Of course, we have more. We have the component should component update. And then we have the component will receive prompts. These ones are not that easy. So let's talk about these ones. So we have the should component update. We can use this one to check the changes of the prompts and the state. And this one, it will return true or false. Told you that this one is going to be a little bit confusing. So let me show you. I'm going to say should. Let me just show you the code and we will build from there. I'm going to say should component and then update, just like that, open and close. Now from the start, this one is going to receive 2 arguments. Just going to put it and then we're going to discuss this. It's going to be next and then prompts, and then the second argument is going to be next and then state. This function, this method, it should be returning true or it's going to return false. So now whenever we received an update, we make an update on our application, it's going to fall to this one. and it's going to be checking the next state of props or the next state of the state. So if we are changing the state, it's going to enter here, and inside next state, we can have whatever new value we are passing, not the previous one. So if I say console log, and then we console log the next state, let me just copy this. And remember that this function this method needs to return true or false. I'm going to return true. Just for now, return true. By default, it's going to return true, but we're going to do this for just in case. So, okay, I'm going to click to change, and it's going to change something else. And notice that right here at the bottom, we are getting title something else. So we are getting the new value, the one that we are passing, you know, the update one. Good. And right here, it's just doing the console log. And of course, we are returning true. So everything gets the normal behavior. Now notice what happens if I say false. I'm going to reload the application. I'm going to click to change. And we are getting the title something else, the next state of things, but you know, nothing's happening. We are not getting an update. So right here, what we could do is to check the previous state and the next state. And if something happens that we don't want to happen, we can just return false, and the application will never update the render, will never re-render. So let's do it right now. I'm going to delete the console log. And of course, I'm going to say the console log first. Let me just show you. So let's say that we can output the console log. We can view the next state. And of course, if we wanted to see the previous state, remember that we have it available inside that state, and that title. And the next state is going to be title. Again, let me reload the page. If we click change, we have Lifecycles, which is the current one, and the next one. So what we can do, we can evaluate right here with whatever code we wish to check the previous state and the next state. And if it matches, we let the component update or not. Let's see in practice. I'm going to say if, and I'm going to be checking the next state title. Okay. So if the next state title matches something, I want to not move forward. So I'm going to say it's going to be triple equal to something else. And if it's, of course, if the next state of the title, which is going to be true, it passes, I want to return false. I don't want to update the component. So I'm going to say return and then false. Now, if it passes, I'm going to return true, just like that. So I'm going to reload the application. I'm going to click to change. And of course, since we are passing something else, the component will not, React is not going to re-render the application. If I change something right here, of course, this rule will not be met, so it's going to do the update. I'm going to click to change, and we are getting something else. It's doing the update. So this way, we can control what comes inside our application and decide if we want to move forward with the update or not. So now it's really, really useful, and we're going to be using this a little bit in the future. Okay, so we have one more to go. Let's see that one and then just move forward. So we have a couple more to go. We have component will receive props. Since we know what the other ones do, we kind of know what this one is going to do. I'm going to say component, and it's going to be will receive, and then props. Open and close is a method. So this one is going to be checking for new props. I'm going to say console log, then open and close, and then before receive, and then props. And I made a typo, receive props. Good. So this one is a little bit hard to check. So let me tell you what's going on. We go to live, we reload the application. It's going to show us the component, and of course we get the will mount, the render, and the did mount. And the only props that we are getting are from React Router. That's good. We know that. The only props we get are from React Router. Okay. Of course, if I go to profile, nothing happens because we are not inside the live component. And if I go back to live, we get the will mount, and then the render, and then after render. So this one is going to be listening for new props. So if I go to profile and then live, this component is going to have some default props. In this case, the default props are going to be from React Router. So we are not receiving new props. They are the default one. Now we are already inside this component, the live component. So if I click on live again, we are not going to reload the component. The component, it's already mounted. But what it's going to do is going to be reloading some things. So if I click on live again, we are going to get before receive props. The component, it's already mounted. But whenever we click right here, we are saying React Router, just reload this route. And it's passing the props again to this component. And that's why we are getting before we see props. So right here, you can just, maybe just check whenever the parent component, it's just sending new props. And this could be, whatever. It could be a fetch from the URL, or maybe some new data from a user, or maybe a socket, or whatever. Okay, this one, it's kind of a simple. So then we have one more to go. And again, this one is going to be really simple. We have the component will unmount. Since we have the component will mount, we have the opposite of this. The component did mount is going to be listening whenever the component gets unmounted. So component, and then of course did mount. No, sorry, will unmount. Just like that, unmount, open and close. And again, just like before, I'm just typing this by hand. I've disabled all the plugins, but you have tons of plugins, at least with VS Code, to do the auto typing. You can have some templates to use right here, so you don't have to type it every time you need to use it. I'm just doing it right here by hand because I'm just showing you. So I'm going to say console log, and then unmount. Right. So whenever we mount, we do we reload, and React scheme does this component. We trigger the component will mount that we have before render. Then we have the render, and then the after render. Now, if I go out of this component, we get the unmount. So it's unmounting the live component, and it's mounting a different component, of course. But we have access to know whenever a component gets unmounted. So right here, maybe, just maybe, what you could do is maybe a network request to log the user out, or to do whatever you need to do if the user goes out of that component. If the user leaves that component, you can know when that happens, and you can take some actions. So this one, it could be really useful. Okay, so that's the end of React Lifecycles. Don't worry, we're going to be using them. We're going to be using them on a real life scenario. And don't worry, we're going to be using them, okay? So you're going to get a lot of practice. Let's keep moving forward. I want to talk about some other things that we're going to be using, maybe with the React Lifecycles or something else, some other topics of React. So let's keep moving forward.